So I'm here at the Business Analysis Conference Europe 2022, and I've managed to collar two really popular speakers. You'll probably know them from the Visual Jam, the meetup community, or some of their other work. Wright and Paddy Dhanda. So Grant and Paddy, thank you very much for being here today.
Oh, thank you, Adrian. It's a pleasure.
So you're speaking tomorrow, I think, aren't you?
We are, yeah, early in the morning.
Yeah, and of course you're best known for the Visual Jam, your sort of online content. But I noted your presentation here is called "The Power of Persuasion: How to Create Change Through the Art of Storytelling." Now it's interesting because we often have to persuade as BAs, but like, how and why would you say visual thinking fits into that? Because it might, if people aren't familiar with it, they might not immediately make the connection.
Oh, that's a great question, Adrian. So the age we live in now is what we call the age of infobesity. There is just so much information being pumped into our brains. If we think about content creation, and you're a content creator yourself, over the last 10 years, we've created more content than we had ever created before that. People are generally talking faster than they did in the 1950s. People that live in cities, on average, are walking 10% faster than they did over the last 20 years ago.
Wow.
So as people, we have this huge challenge of dealing with all of this demand on our attention and focus. And we feel that we need to do something a little bit different to get people's attention so that they care about the message we're trying to articulate. And that's how we feel that visual thinking and storytelling is a way for us to tap into people's attention.
Fantastic. Grant, would you add anything? I mean, that's a pretty comprehensive response there, Paddy. Would you add anything?
Well, I think as well as what Paddy said, that in terms of how can BAs kind of persuade people and use techniques, the storytelling angle, I guess the key message is about making people care. So if you can bring story to create an emotional connection with your audience. I mean, I saw your talk this morning. You did that really well.
Thank you.
You tell stories and you make a connection, and it draws people in. And so that's kind of part of the premise, that once you've got that emotional connection, and then in our talk we then talk about how you can then piggyback on storytelling structure ideas to make your presentations more interesting and ultimately make people care.
Yeah.
And the visual angle just really helps you bring out your key messages in a unique way as well.
Fantastic. Well, I am absolutely sure people watching this will now be wanting me to ask, can you show us an example? So, can you show us an example? We have the flip chart set up ready for you.
So almost as if we were prepared. Okay. Do you want to talk through what we're doing now? I'll draw a little character.
Yeah, nice.
Perfect. So once you've mastered a few of the basic principles of visual thinking, just some basic icons, we can start to put them together and formulate stories on top and really sort of create a compelling story. So in this case, we're going to be drawing a light bulb. So this is a story about Bob, the bulb. And Bob, as a young bulb, had a dream. His dream was to light up the world. He used to imagine himself in amongst all of the other bulbs in the town as being a light that people would look up to. He'd often look into the sky and see the bright stars and imagine he could shine as bright as those stars. But when he got to that stage of lighting up the world, he looked across the town and he had this look of unhappiness. And poor Bob had just realized that he was no longer needed, because this was the age of the LED light and the traditional light was no longer needed. And that's where we'll stop the story.
Fantastic. I'm transfixed. It's really interesting. You were talking about visual storytelling, and I found myself listening to you, Paddy, but not watching you. I was watching Grant draw the picture, and I guess that's kind of part of it, right? Is that actually, not just the image, but the creation of the image tells the story. It sort of stores that narrative. So. A question I'm sure many people watching will have is like, how do you get started, right? Because you folks have clearly been doing it for a while. You know all the tricks and tips. So how can people get started with this?
I think there's some basic techniques you can learn. I think a lot of people, their instant reaction when they see this is, oh, I can't draw, I couldn't do that. And so what we try and do is teach people to simplify visual shapes. So we use what's called the visual alphabet, which is just a circle, a triangle, a square, and those kind of simple shapes. And much like a regular alphabet, you can build those shapes together to create simple icons. I don't know if it's worth maybe illustrating.
Yeah,
that.
go with it.
Do you want to talk us through?
Yep, go for it.
Which one do you want to do?
You choose, mate. Go on.
We'll do the light bulb ones.
Yeah, okay. So we always say, if you can write, you can draw. Because often when we ask people to put up their hands, if they feel they can draw, we literally get 1 or 2 hands in the room. And so we break it down into very simple, almost letters. And we'll start with a circle, big old circle. And then a U, just at the bottom. And then the Z. And then the M in the middle. And if you want to show this bulb has been lit up, we can add some extra little features to show it.
So it doesn't have to be complicated. It can just be, like you said, I like the idea of that visual alphabet where you combine the different pieces and it's almost like bigger than the sum of its parts.
Absolutely. And what we're not aiming for here is perfection in any way or any kind of artistic capability. This is literally taking some shapes, putting them together in an abstract way that people can now make out that this is a light bulb.
Yeah. Well, Paddy, Grant, I'm sure lots of people will be rushing to your session tomorrow, I have no doubt. But more generally at the conference, have you found any themes are jumping out from you? I know it's still early in the conference, but any themes that are jumping out from you more generally?
I think just from my personal perspective, I think communication has been quite a key theme. We were at a session yesterday around sort of data visualization and storytelling, which I thought was fantastic. We were at the Be More Pirate workshop as well. And I think there's a real focus on human skills here this year, which is fantastic to see because we're big advocates of that skill set, as opposed to it just being about the techniques.
Yeah. So Grant, anything you'd add to that?
No, I think a similar thing. I mean, I noticed in your session again this morning that you brought storytelling and communication, the session we saw yesterday. And I think, just to echo what Paddy said, really, that recognising that to be successful and to really excel as a BA, obviously you need the tools and the techniques and to understand those things. But I think to go beyond, then you need to tap into those human skills that Paddy talked about.
Definitely. Well, I'm sure people watching this video will want to know how they can connect with you. I've already mentioned the Visual Jam. I mean, what is it? How can people get involved? How can people follow you, get to know more about your services?
Oh, brilliant. So LinkedIn is probably our preferred platform. We seem to be doing a lot of stuff on LinkedIn. You can go to the website, thevisualjam.com. The Meetup app as well, we're on there. I pretty much think if you type in the Visual Jam on
you'll
Google,
find you will
find
absolutely find both of you. So.
Absolutely. But LinkedIn is probably the best way to connect with us individually. And we're always happy to hear from people. So please do reach out.
Fantastic. Well, Paddy, Grant, thank you so much for taking time to have a chat to us today. So fantastic. Well, I hope you've enjoyed that interview. We'll be trying to capture as many as we can while we're here at the conference. So do subscribe, follow us on social media. We'll bring you as many as we can. But bye for now.